When the Japanese attacked the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, the 440-acre islet called Ford Island was a central target. Not only were 7 of the 8 battleships of the U.S. Pacific Fleet that were at Pearl Harbor moored in Battleship Row near Ford Island, but the island included a naval air station, the headquarters of the Navy's Patrol Wing 2. Destruction of the Navy Air Station was a high-value target for the Japanese, especially the Navy's 33 consolidated Catalina PBYs. The PBY was an amphibious patrol bomber whose range made it an excellent scouting aircraft. By attacking the seaplane facilities on Ford Island, the Imperial Japanese Navy was trying to blind the American Navy, taking away its ability to find the Japanese fleet. Of 33 PBYs at Pearl Harbor, 24 were destroyed and 6 others damaged beyond repair. Only 3 that had been on patrol at the time of the attack were undamaged. And yet the attack had skipped one part of Ford Island. 10 Sikorsky JRS-1 amphibious aircraft of the Navy's Utility Squadron 1 were undamaged. The JRS-1 is the Navy designation for the Sikorsky S-43, a twin-engine amphibious aircraft that airlines referred to as the Baby Clipper. First flown in 1935, the aircraft could accommodate up to 25 passengers. The plane had an 86-foot wingspan and was 51 foot 2 inches long. Powered by 2 750-horsepower Pratt & Whitney radial engines, the plane had a maximum speed of 190 miles per hour and a range of 775 miles. In all, 53 S-34s were produced. Pan American Airways used the S-34 for routes in Latin America, and 3 operated as part of an inter-island service in Hawaii. 5 of the aircraft were purchased by the U.S. Army Air Corps in 1937, and 17 were purchased by the U.S. Navy between 1937 and 1939, where they were designated the JRS-1. 2 of those 17 served with the Marine Corps. The 10 JRS-1s of Utility Squadron VJ-1 had been moved to Hawaii in 1940, and were the Pacific Fleet's photographic unit. Their main function was aerial photography, although utility squadrons were multi-purpose units, developed as a you call, we haul operation, and sometimes referred to as the handyman of the air. The utility squadrons towed targets for gunnery practice, took aerial photographs to, for example, spot torpedoes used in torpedo practice so that they may be recovered. But they were very commonly used for transport, when and where the Navy needed, and to carry the mail, a critical practice for maintaining morale. Representing these roles, the logo of Utility Squadron VJ-1 was a pelican carrying a bag of mail with its feet and a photographer in its beak. In fact, the JRS-1s of VJ-1 were brightly painted, not like combat aircraft, but for their role delivering the mail. The planes were silver and orange-yellow with a bright green tail and red trim. Although they were sometimes used for escort duty and had racks that allowed them to be armed with depth charges to attack submarines, they included no guns, their role being described generally as a flying pickup truck. Lawrence Burke, a curator at the National Air and Space Museum, described them as the station wagon of its day that did all the boring jobs that needed to be done. But in the immediate wake of the attack, with the Pacific Fleet's air assets largely in ruins, the JRS-1s were pressed into service beyond all expectations. The JRS-1s would have to go in search of the Imperial Japanese Navy. The Japanese fleet was still lurking somewhere nearby, and no one knew their intent. The Navy needed to know if more attacks were coming, or, an even greater fear, if an invasion of the Hawaiian Islands was on its way. But if the unarmed JRS-1s were to find the Japanese fleet, that fleet would be protected by fighter aircraft, like the Mitsubishi A6M0, nearly 3 times as fast as the JRS-1 and mounting 20mm cannons in their wings. For defense, JRS-1 crews were issued rifles and Marine and Army volunteers who would sit at the back doors of the aircraft. The plan, if they ran into Japanese fighter aircraft, was to try to shoot at those aircraft with rifles out the windows. In fact, that was a suicide mission. If one of the JRS-1s were to encounter the Japanese fleet, the only hope was that they could radio the fleet's location before being shot down. And still their crews went up, searching for the fleet that had devastated the U.S. Pacific Squadron. They flew just under the cloud cover, hoping to disappear into the clouds if they encountered any hostile aircraft. While they never encountered the Japanese fleet, in retrospect it appears that one of the JS-1s got within 40 miles of them. Their service in searching, despite having no realistic defense had they succeeded in finding their quarry, could only be described as heroic. JRS-1s also played a critical role in surveying the damage from the attack. If you see an aerial photograph of Pearl Harbor showing damage from the attack, odds are it was taken by a JRS-1. Only one JRS-1 is known to survive. It is currently being restored by the U.S. National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. It is one of only a handful of aircraft that were on station at Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, that is known to survive, and the only such plane in the museum's collection. If you enjoyed this History Guy short, then feel free to click that like button, subscribe to our channel, and check us out on Patreon, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and our merchandise on teespring.com.